Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for tuning in to my channel. Appreciate all the views, and I want to apologize for paying for campaigns. I didn't realize like that could jeopardize like the organic growth. So yeah, I'm not gonna be doing that no more, promoting videos. But if y'all really want to tune in on your own time, then feel free, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. So yeah, and I just want to say, like, when I mean like oppressing us, it's like spiritual oppression, knowledge oppression, like we don't know what they know. And just want to clarify that. So here we go. Measuring stick of the universe, the human body and its geometries. Geometry within the human body. It's easy to see how the 5 platonic solids influence the structural patterns of crystals and metals. Metals also have atomic lattices. It's simple to see the geometrical relationships of these types of molecules, but when you look at yourself or at a baby being formed, it's much more difficult to see how this kind of geometry could have anything to do with us at all. Yet it does. In the beginning of your life in the womb, you were nothing but geometrical forms. Figure 7 and 1. In fact, all life forms, trees, plants, dogs, cats, everything, have the same geometrical and structural patterns running through them that ran through you when you were microscopic. Their very life and structural support depend on the forms. In fact, all life forms are aliens. Are these geometrical patterns, but it is not apparent to the casual eye. These geometrical relationships are important to perceive, not only so the left brain can realize the unity of all life, but for another reason, so that when we can understand these electromagnetic structural patterns around our body and the beings begin to recreate the living Merkaba around us. In the beginning of the sphere, the ovum, figure 7 and 2, is a sea urchin egg with sperms forming around it. I'm going to be talking primarily about human beings and human conception, but I'm actually discussing all life forms known on Earth, because the procedure illustrated in the next few figures is identical for every life form known, not just humans, but everything. Every known life form begins as a sphere. It's the most female form there is, so it makes perfect sense that the female would choose that shape to form the ovum, figure 7 and 3. The ovum is perfectly round ball. The ovum is a perfectly round ball. Another example of a round ovum is inside a chicken egg. When you move the yolk from a hard-boiled egg, you can see how perfectly round it is. All of us begin as a sphere. I would like you to notice some simple things about this ovum. First, there's a membrane around it called the zona pellucida. Remember this, because I will refer to it over and over again. It has to do with why the ancients put 2 circles around the flower of life instead of just one or none. Inside the membrane is a liquid, and inside that, just like the chicken egg, there's another perfectly round sphere called the female pronucleus, which contains 22 plus 1 chromosomes, half the chromosomes necessary to create a human body. The body of a chromosome changes depending on life forms, and those particular chromosomes are different in every life form. Inside the zona pellucida, Theta are two polar bodies. I'll explain those in a moment. So, speaking of this, lately have been on my mind, right? Like eggs and stuff, because I crack some open sometimes, and then they look like little fetuses, right? They look like a head, and then like a little body. And when I mix it, I'm like, what the hell? Are they just like little humans too? But they say that we have, DNA we share with mice. Now it's like chickens. You know, we have similarities. Our DNA's like can just one chromosome off. It's like something else. But yeah, so I was also thinking of a story like that, like a short sci-fi, like right, like humans as eggs, like chicken eggs, and that we're just eating human chicken eggs, like they would be little humans and stuff. Imagine if you mix DNA with chickens, and then you started breeding, having like multiple eggs with half human, half chickenoids, human chickenoids, so something like that. That was like been on my mind lately, and then reading this, it's just like kind of like what I'm thinking is like true, and yeah, it's just like we're just eating sperm, chicken, eggs, like the sperm and the fetus, you know, the sperm and the ovum, or yeah, female. Oh, it's very interesting. Okay, so let me get back to this. The number 12. When you were first learning about human biology, you were probably told that it takes one sperm for conception to occur. That isn't true. According to Time magazine, even though most textbooks still state this, it is now known that the ovum must be absolutely saturated with hundreds of sperm. Our conception is not even possible. Second, out of those hundreds, 10, even or 12 must come together in some kind of pattern on the surface, a pattern they're still trying to figure out, that allows the 11th, 12th, or 13th sperm to enter the ovum, 7 or 14. One sperm cannot get through the membrane without the other 10, 11, or 12. It's not possible except under unnatural conditions where a human manipulates the conception. So maybe like all of them are like trying to get in, all the souls, like they're trying to make it in, and they're all just breaking down the membrane, the ovum, and see who's the strongest, like one. And then these numbers 12 are always like symbolic. 12, 12, 12, you know 12, 12 months, 12 hours, the 12 chromosome DNA. Now they're finding the superhuman DNA, the God DNA. This image brings up what was possibly hidden in the life of Jesus. Jesus came here to a round ball called Earth, which was saturated with people. The first thing he did was gather 12 males together, no females. Jesus, from my point of view and from his, I'm sure, because he did it, could not have done what he did without the 12 disciples. Seldom does anyone wonder why he gathered those 12 disciples together. He absolutely had to have them. If we are right, he could have done it with 10 or even 11, but he chose 12. I believe that number of sperm that join to allow the one sperm to enter the egg determines the sex, and Jesus chose 12. Prior to Jesus' time in Greece, near the area of his ministry, people saw the earth as a sphere. Right after that, they began to see the earth as a cube and flat. Then, 400 years ago, Copernicus came along and changed it back to a sphere. So people's perception of the earth went from a sphere to a cube and back to a sphere, exactly the same thing. spheres to cubes to spheres, goes on during conception, only at a much faster rate. I don't know if this analogy is true or not, but it is sure but it sure does look like it. A lot, right? It takes 12 to get 1. The sperm becomes a sphere. Anyway, the little sperm gets in through the zona pellucida with the help of the other sperm and then starts swimming towards the female pronucleus. The first thing that happens is that the sperm's tail breaks off and disappears. It's just gone. Next, the tiny sperm's head expands and becomes a perfect sphere, with which is the male pronucleus. It becomes exactly the same size as the female pronucleus, and it contains the other half of the necessary information. The words exactly the same size, I believe, are very important. That when you look at the next figure, next, they pass through each other and form geometrical relationships called Visca Pisces. Pisces. Oh, I lost my light, so bear with me. This is the only light I have now. Okay. It is not possible for the two spheres to pass through each other and perfectly coincide without forming a vesica Pisces. This means that at that exact moment, the male and female pronuclei form the image of the first motion of the first day of Genesis, and literally all the information of the reality and light is contained in that geometry. It's so simple that that image could not be formed unless these two pronuclei were the same size. It's for that reason I believe that the female determines which sperm will enter. Science proved around 1992 that the determining factor for which sperm will enter is the female. She selects the one to allow in, just as everybody in this room has a different projection length into a dark space or into the void. Each little sperm also has a different size sphere around it. She's not going to let him in unless his size is identical to hers. If it's a matching key, okay. If it's not, forget it. This could explain why many people who have tried to have babies cannot have them. There's no explanation that nobody can see. There might be at least one explanation. So maybe because that's not your destiny to have a child with that person and create that life, and you're on a different path and stuff. And I experienced things like that too. I used to dream of future events and things like that. I don't want to get too personal with that, but yeah. So yeah. So it takes two. She's like the one that allows the other sperm to get in. So here we go. After the first human cell, after the two pronuclei make a vesica Pisces, the male pronucleus continues to permeate the female pronucleus until they are one. Figure 7 and 7. At this time, it's called a human zygote. Zygote? Zygote. Forgive me. The first cell of the human body. So you begin as a sphere before you created your familiar human body. Actually, you were a sphere within a sphere. That's why I like to connect like that. It's like two spheres connecting the flower of life. I know you guys can't really even see that. I probably have to like pause the video, but yeah. The next thing you need to know is that the human zygote will not change size during the first 9 cell divisions. It's fixed, as is the size of the outer membrane. The human zygote, I'm just gonna call it zygote, is about 200 times bigger than the average cell in the human body. So big you can actually see it with your naked eye. When it divides into two, each of those two cells are half the original size, and when those two cells divide into four, each cell is a quarter of the original size. The cells keep dividing like this, getting and literal, 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 and littler until they've divided 8 times and number 512. At that point, the average cell size of the human body is reached. When that happens, mitosis continues and the dividing cells expand beyond the boundaries of the original zona pellucida. So, first the growth goes into itself, then out beyond itself. When the first growth goes inward, it's as if it's trying to figure out how to do it. Once it figures out that, it goes beyond itself. All life uses this process. I use that same understanding to figure out some of the geometries which you'll see later. Figure 7 and 8 is an electron microscope photography photograph of the first cell of a mouse egg, forming a central tube. The next thing happens is in the conception process is that those little polar bodies begin to migrate through the zona pellucida. One goes down and becomes a south pole, and the other becomes a north pole. Then, out of nowhere, a tube appears running right down through the center of the cell. Then the chromosome breaks in half, and half of them line up along the side of the tube and half along the other. It's like the electricity, the Odin, the energy, the shock, and it's also the silver accord because by reading Saint Germain, hearing the audios of Ascended Masters, that silver accord, the attachment, it's attached to all of us and it's way up there. And it's like a silver pole. And I think this is what they're talking about also. The silver accord with God, your connection with God, in the higher realms. This is a familiar image in human energy fields. It's very much like energetics of an adult human being. If you study this further, you'll see that you have a similar sphere of energy around you. You have a north pole and a south pole, and you have a tube running right down through your body. Half of you is on the side of that tube, and the half is on the other side. So this picture is very much like the energy field of an adult human being, though the human energy field is much, much more defined than that. But we've got to wait until we get further along to see how true this is. Yeah, energy fields are real. The Ascended Masters have tons of energy fields that protect them, that can levitate them, that can heal other people with their energies and their electric field. And that's why, like, the universe is electricity. Electricity. So, yeah, I don't want to get off topic, but I have a lot of stuff brewing up in my head. It's going to come out. After the chromosomes have lined up along the two sides of the tube, they form into two cells, one on each side of the tube, and each cell contains 44 plus 2 chromosomes, figure 7 and 10. So the yin and the yang, the light and the darkness. Here are the first 2 cells in a mouse egg, 7-11. The zona pellucida has been taken away so you can see that see the inner part. An important piece of information came up around 1992. Many books said that the female gave 22 plus 1 chromosomes and the male gave 22 plus 1. That was flat out true. According to them, it wasn't even considered that it could be anything else, but that has now been found to be untrue. The female can give any number whatsoever. She can give 22 plus 1, or all 44 plus 2, or any number in between. This new information has completely changed the field of genetics. They've thrown almost everything they knew out the window and started over. Scientists used to depend on electron microscopes or photographs. Now they have laser microscopes that can take movies so they can watch these things happening. They're gaining information very rapidly. I'm sure they're a lot further now than we are showing you. We are showing you. I mean, who's we? Yeah. And right now, yeah, biotechnology is like, man, these people, once you're there, they're like genetically altered your whole DNA. The reptilians, I think that's the end game, is like when you move higher in the ranks and the humanoid, whatever the higher stuff going on, DNA, altering DNA, enhancing your DNA, basically making super genetic engineered humans that can live thousands of years. And that's going to be the great divide between transhumanism and all naturals. But it's going to be like, you have to have a balance with tech, and use it for good. And if you want to increase your lifespan, I think that should be we should be able to do that, to experience more things in life. But we need to have peace on this planet, you know so we can keep growing and expanding, and there's resources for everyone, and they can create meta resources out of thin air and just bring it into existence. Okay. So yeah, DNA and all this stuff, genetics. This looks like, I think, like 40 years ago, or like, it's like 30 some years ago. Let me get back in this. Science is in the midst of mapping every one of the 100 chromosomes in the DNA of the human body, and they already did. They just finished that, I think, like 2 years ago, or yeah, like 2024. Within just a few more years, we'll know that what every single chromosome in and what it does, which means that we'll be able to engineer any kind of human being you can imagine. Exactly what I was just saying. Create any appearance of intelligence or emotional body, anything we want. We'll be able to do it and know exactly what we will get. Are we God? This is a question that must be answered, right? They want to be God. They like, what is God anyways? But what that's just like, humans are created in Genesis, genetics, genes. That's what Genesis means. The first words, for genes. So yeah, the gods, these higher Anunnaki beings, genetically made us, and now the humans, because they're all working together. So they want to create different forms of humanoids, and I think the end goal is like, they are united, or they just want to have us all warring against each other, different tribes and humanoids, and and then they'll create the next humanoid species, and then millions of years they'll find our human skeletons. They'll be like, oh, these were the humans from like 3 million years ago, or like, they're like, or something, 300,000 years ago, and These are the new humans now, or whatever is left of, if say there was a big catastrophe and they got wiped out, and then it was like just engineered humans, and then some regular humans, and the isolated places in the world. But would they come in contact eventually? And I think that's what like kind of happened when they came into contact with the lands over here, and it's something like that. These people, they're superior, but they destroy themselves all the time and other people with them. So are they superior or inferior, or they're just like all fucking, their mind is all fucked up with evil, and at the end they're gonna lose. Everyone's gonna lose. So here we go. The first four cells from a tetrahedron. The next step is that the cells divide again, going from 2 to 4, a binary sequence 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, etc. Most textbooks show the first four cells forming a little square, but that's not what happens. They actually form a tetrahedron, one of the Platonic solids, and the apex of the first tetrahedron points either to the North Pole or the South Pole, 7 to 12. The tetrahedron is formed by linking the centers of the spheres together. I believe that whether it points north or south probably determines which sex it is. They haven't discovered that yet, but they probably figure it out based on the polarities of the tetrahedron. If the tetrahedron forms with an apex pointing to the south, the pole towards the feet of the newly forming fetus, it should be female. If it forms with an apex pointing to the north pole towards the head, it should be male. If this is true, they'll be able to determine immediately what the sex is, since they'd have to do that within about an hour or so after conception. It would be fairly inconvenient. It'd be like they use like a microscope and see it like, oh look, it's point. And that's why these symbols are like everywhere, like the triangle, the female and the male triangle meeting and creating the star, and then the tetrahedron and all that stuff. These are the geometries of the first tetrahedron, 7 to 13. The side view is on the right, and the top view is on the left. Okay, my reading is not the best. I feel like pretty good right now, like reading. I need to keep reading this and finish it off, More spheres. Figure 7 and 14 is an electron microscope view of a mouse egg. In this picture, it's growing really fast, but it is still aligned through the north-south pole. That tiny cell is beginning to form beyond the original tetrahedron north point of the tetrahedron in the center of the large cell in the background. Okay, I had to turn on my light and it came back on. I had to turn on the lights again, but here we go. Sorry about that commercial break. Next, the cells divide into 8. They form one tetrahedron facing up and one tetrahedron facing down, and you get the star tetrahedron. Here it is, the egg of life. This form came out of Genesis. Remember? It came out of Spirit's second rotation. Every single life known on Earth anyway, and probably everywhere, must pass through the egg of life, according to the angels. This point where the original 8 cells formed the star tetrahedron, or a cube, this depending on how you look at it, is one of the most important points in the creation of the body. Science has always recognized that this particular stage of development is different from any other, and it has many unique qualities that don't occur at any other time in its development. Interesting. Okay. The most important quality of these original 8 cells is that they appear to be identical. There appear to be nothing different about them at all. Usually it's easy to see the difference between one cell and another, but here they are. Here they all appear to be the same. Researchers have tried to find differences, but they couldn't. It would be as though there were 8 identical twins in this room, dressed exactly alike, with their hair combed exactly the same way. Quantum entanglement, right? Scientists have found that they can split the egg in two at this point through the middle of the cube, with 4 cells in one part and 4 in the other, and 2 identical people, or rabbits, or dogs, or anything else will be created. They've also been able to sever it once more, sever it once more, making 4 identical life forms. I don't know if anybody has been able to go further than that and make 8 life forms, but they've definitely gone as far as 4. Man, you just make like a whole litter of identical army clones, people, anything you want, basically. Our true nature is in our original 8 cells. Maybe the 8 is like the infinity cell. According to the angels, these original 8 cells are closer to whom you really are than your physical body is, closer to your true nature. That sounds odd, I know, because we're used to identifying with our human bodies, but these 8 cells are closer to who we really are. The angels say these 8 cells are immortal relative to your body. You get a brand new body every 5 to 7 years. Every single cell in your body dies within a 5 to 7 year period and is replaced with a new one, except for the original 8 cells. They remain alive from time to time. You're conceived until the time you die and leave the body. All the rest go through their life cycles, but not these 8. It's like interesting. It's like mysteries. I'm just like getting like these like trying to like how should I say? I had it right here. It was like a dream, something like this, like a dream. Maybe all this is a dream, but it was a dream like that. And yeah, the ascended masters of Saint Germain. Yeah, because I was like reading about the angels. Okay, they say that these ascended masters can change their bodies and they can operate multiple bodies at one time, right? And necessary whatever tasks they might perform. And the United States is like playing a major role in the golden age of all these enlightened people that are here to light the way of the world. And if America's free, we're all free, and we can make every country in the world free. Like, because there's a lot of bad stuff going on, and America is not as worse as all the places, but it seems like it's heading to that path. Like, there's like, out here, what's going on, and just like walk with the light, and all the demons bow down, and the hellfire, Okay. These cells are centered in the precise geometric center of your body, which is slightly above the perineum. For the female, the perineum is located between the anus and the vagina. For the male, it's between the anus and the scrotum. There's a little piece of skin there, and even though there's not there's not a physical opening. There is actually an energetic opening. That's where the central tube runs through your body, coming out the top through the crown chakra at the top of your body, at the top of your head. If you look at a newborn during the first few weeks, you'll see the top of its head pulsing. Yeah, I remember. Boom, 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 boom. I was like, what the hell? They're like, don't touch it. That's a soft spot. And head pulsing. If you were to look at the bottom of the baby and its perineum, you'll see the same pulsing. That's because the baby is breathing in the proper way. Both ends are pulsing because the energy is flowing from the two poles, coming not only from the top down, but from the bottom up and meeting. This is the basic understanding of the Merkaba from the point where the original 8 cells are located. It's the same distance to the top of your head and it is to the bottom of your feet, and the cells are arranged just as they were when they first came into existence in the egg of life pattern, north up, south down. If you notice in the previous illustrations, when the egg of life is originated to the north and south, you can actually see through the middle of the light colored sphere on the backside. That's very different than when you look at it as a hexagon. You can't see through a hexagon pattern. I want you to notice this difference for later when we talk about doing meditation to activate the Merkaba. So we're coming closer to ending this book, and I'm gonna get the second book, but that one, like, I probably like want to record myself doing meditations, and probably like knock out, fall asleep when you're doing them, and then you blast off. You might see something, or you might feel something, experience something. But yeah, when I was doing the meditations like 15 years ago with this book, and I had the time to meditate, and I was isolated, and I blasted off like right now, like I'm here, I'm in the future, and this dream. So the ascended masters say that this stuff too. Shoot, it was at the tip of my brain right now. It was like I was gonna say it all right now. Like ascended masters are saying this. Okay, the north and south. There we go. North and south. So they're saying that you place your head to the north and you meditate for an hour a day, and then you place your feet to the south and you meditate for an hour, and you think of a light, right? Light energy, like healing you and blessing you and just revitalizing every cell of your body. And then they do that, and that's what prolongs their life and their longevity and keeps their youthful appearance. So this could be something like that, like where life is like pulsating, the energy, the poles, the accordance, the accordance with God, and we're connected. And once that silver accord breaks, then your life is like over, right? Then you gotta go to the portal and go be weighed, the weighing of the heart. The chart, okay. Figure 7 to 16, and in the next are two views of the first 8 cells. These original 8 cells are the key, because according to the angels, we don't grow like a string being getting longer and longer. We actually grow radially in 360 degrees from the original 8 cells. This picture of the mouse egg was taken just as the 8 cells started to divide again. 7 and 17. It's not a great photograph as these pictures are different to get. The cells are dividing very quickly. They have to stripes. They have to strip off the zona pellucida, have the cells stop at the right place, then take the photograph. I'm sure now they could, with the technology now, they could have very, close up pictures, more detailed pictures. The star tetrahedron cube of 16 cells becomes a hollow sphere torus. After the 8 cells division, it divides into 16 cells, whereupon it forms another cube or star tetrahedron on the end. This is the last time it will be symmetrical, when it divides into 32 16 cells are in the middle and 16 on the outside. If you take the 16 on the outside and try to fill in the empty spaces to keep it symmetrical, you will find it is not possible. I've actually done this. You end up with 2 open spaces no matter how you Are you guys liking the reading? No matter how you do it, it needs 18 cells to be symmetrical. You wonder why. At the next division, there are 32 more cells, but it gets worse. Figure 7 to 18. You wonder, what's going on here? It's getting weird. Where did all the symmetry go? Well, it was meant to do that. It starts turning into a blob. We become a blob for a while, but the blob has consciousness in its blobness. Then it stretches and the inside starts churning out, becoming a hollow ball like this photo, figure 7 to 19. Looks like the eyes, huh? Some kind of butterfly. It looks like a accelerator, oscillation, like a sphere, like a it's going oscillation, like an oscillator. Okay. Well, it was meant to do that. It starts turning into a blob. We become okay. I already read that. Okay. Once we get to this stage, it becomes a perfect hollow sphere. Then the North Pole starts dropping through the space inside, going down towards the South Pole, and the South Pole comes up through the space to meet the North Pole. The embryo in this photo has been broken apart so that center could be photographed. If you could see this in its completeness, it looks just like an apple cored through the middle. The hollow sphere then becomes a torus, a spherical torus like the photo on the right. Original cells forming into a torus. See the photo at the right. A sea urchin embryo magnified 2,000 times begins as a hollow ball of cells. It forms a gut by folding inward left until its cells reach the opposite side. So the first sea urchin was cloned in I think 98 or something, 1812. Something like that. That's a big gap. I know it was something in the 1800s, and by some guy named Robert or something. But he basically got the sea urchin and put it in a box and shook it up, and his DNA came out, and he took it and he cloned it. I was like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Imagine they just shook us up, whoa, and then all our cells shaked out, and then they're like, oh, let's clone it. So I was like, So sea urchins are playing a big role in cloning and DNA and how they found out all this stuff. Yeah, very interesting. Every single known life form goes through this torus stage. This formation is the apple torus shape is called the morula. After this, the expansion goes around the zona pellucida and the cells begin to differentiate, differentiate, I can't say that word right now. Differentiate. Okay, that's enough. The hollow space inside the torus becomes the lungs. The north pole becomes the mouth. The south pole becomes the anus, and all the internal organs from inside the tube that runs through the middle. If it's a frog, it begins to get little legs, or if it's a horse, a little tail grows. For a fly, little wings develop, and a human starts to look like a human. But before the differentiation, we all look like a torus. I suspect this is why, though I don't have any proof. Biblical tradition says that the tree of knowledge of good and evil is an apple tree. We really do turn into something that looks very much like an apple at one stage. That too, right here. Yeah. And it looks like a sphere, like a oscillation sphere, like the human body and all that stuff to these things you show. And I put a video too, like it was a good one. It was by that white dude. What's his name? And it was really good. And it was talking about like stuff like that, like oscillation. Okay. Progression of life forms through the platonic solids. To summarize, we start out as a sphere, the ovum. We then move to a tetrahedron at 4 cells. Then, on the 2 interlocked tetrahedrons, a star tetrahedron or a cube at 8 cells. From 2 cubes at 16 cells, we turn back into a sphere, beginning at 32 cells. And then God, 32. Or 33 was when he died. Okay, never mind. But, and form the spheres, we become a torus at 512 cells. Planet Earth and its magnetic field is also a torus. All of these forms are scared shapes that come out of the first formational system of the fruit of life, which is based on the Metatron's cube. Yeah, and then like all these the angles, the top, bottom, left, right, south, north, east, west. We're like coming from these different parts of the universe. The 4 quadral navigation, like everything's 4, like that part, like the north, south, it's like 4, right? And then 4, and then it's the swastika, the Milky Way. That's the pouring out the life, right? So each little quadrant, the little stick is 3. So 3 times 4 is 12, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So those are the zodiacs. They're breaking down into like 3, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And those are all the alien life forms in space, and different DNA inside those Milky Way galaxies. We could go on for probably another 7 or 8 months talking about this subject, showing how more and more and more things are connected to these 5 shapes, the platonic solids. But I think you can see exactly what I mean. By the way, modern mathematicians say that the platonic solids have been known only since civilization began about 6,000 years. It began 6,000. What the hell? That don't even make sense. 6,000 years. That's what they say, because they keep lying. then Earth is like people, millions, billions, trillions, simulation, malfunction ago, 6,000 years ago. But this is not true. Some put their discoveries during the time of Greece. Archaeologists have recently found some perfect models in the earth, perfectly cut in stone, that were found to be 20,000 years old. Those hairy barbarians obviously knew more that we give them credit for. Because when the sinking of Atlantis happened, right, Thoth went to the hairy barbarians that were dwelling in caves, and then he came with his magic science, and he had like a shaft that just basically paralyzed all the barbarians, and they were gonna come whack them. They had like cudgels, like knives and like stuff, that they're in their lower state of thinking. And it's just like, there was like how there is now civilizations within civilizations, like advanced civilizations, people that are still like, you know way down there in different isolated places, and there's tribes that are hiding right now from modern civilization, because they know they're all like with the darkness and stuff, and they just want to conquer them. And so they go and they hide, and they go in the inner earth and stuff. Underwater birthing and dolphin midwives. I would like to take a quick digression from the geometries of birth to something slightly different. A Russian named Igor Charkovsky Charko Charkovsky Sky has been involved in underwater birthing for a long time. He has probably assisted with at least 20,000 underwater births. Excuse me. His daughter, one of the first to be born underwater, was in her 20s, I think, when the following incident took place. Charkovsky and his team had taken a woman to the Black Sea for an underwater birth. They were sitting there prepared for the birth, with the woman laying in the water about 2 feet deep. As I remember, 3 dolphins approached. Let me turn it back on. Okay, I guess this turns back on. Turn time. Okay. Oh shit. Oh, it's probably low battery or something. As I remembered, 3 dolphins approached, pushed everybody away, and took over. The dolphins did something that looked like scanning up and down her body, something I have experienced, and which does something to the human system. The woman gave birth with almost no pain or fear. It was a phenomenal experience. That experience with underwater birthing began a new practice of using dolphins as midwives, which has now spread all over the world. There's something about the sonar that dolphins project at that time of birth that seems to really relax the mother. I don't doubt it. And there's like ancient Greeks stories that, and there's like mosaics. I think that's what they're called. The little cube art, kind of like pixels, but they show like dolphin warrior clans, like with people like warriors riding dolphins, and they're all like, geared up, and they're like war dolphins or something. And that was like a thing back in the ancient Greeks and stuff. They would ride the dolphins like mounted, like for war and stuff. So dolphins and humans are like have a close connection with each other, and it's evident because you hear stories all the time, and hear this story too. Now they're doing dolphin midwives. Dolphins have preferences with humans. This is not an absolute rule, but is usually true. If you go swimming with dolphins and there are children around, the dolphins go to the children first. If there are no children, they go to the women. If there are no women, they go to the men. And if there's a woman who's pregnant, everyone else can forget it. She gets their total That's interesting. Total attention. That little incoming baby is the greatest thing of all. The dolphins become very excited when they see a human giving birth. They just love it. Yeah, and they're probably like, stay away from the guys. They're freaking crazy. They just want to use us for war. Okay. Let me pause this video real quick. I'm probably going to end it in a little bit. I don't think the chapter's over yet. So give me a second. Okay, there's a couple more pages left, but I'm going to end after this paragraph and call it because it's too much time and mostly no one probably even look at this. So here we go. Dolphins can do things that are really amazing. Babies who were born with midwifing dolphins at least as it's going in Russia, are extraordinary children. From everything I've read so far, not one of those babies has an IQ under 150, and they all have extremely stable emotional bodies and extremely strong physical bodies. Maybe that frequency made them into superhumans right before they give birth, like wah, 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 like activated their DNA or something, aquatic memory DNA. They seem to be superior in one way or another. France has also had underwater births, over 20,000. They give birth in big tanks. When they first started doing this, they had all the instruments laid out on the tables and all the emergency supplies ready, with a doctor standing by in case there was a problem. But they didn't have a problem. For a long time, a year went by and they still hadn't had a problem. Still another year went by, and finally 20,000 births went by without one single complication. Now they just have the instruments and equipment stuck in a corner somewhere because there simply aren't any problems. I don't know if they know why, but for some reason, when a woman is floating in water, it seems like most complications solve themselves. Maybe her body's not like all tense. I got to spend some time with a woman who was an assistant with Charkovsky in Russia. She had brought back many films that were taken during births. I watched 2 movies of 2 different women giving birth who not only were not in pain, but they were having orgasms while having their babies. Long, extended orgasms lasting about 20 minutes. It was total pleasure. I know that's the way it's supposed to be. It simply makes sense, and these women were proving it. Wow, that's crazy. I've also seen some Russian movies where babies and children, 2 or 3 years and older, sleep on the bottom of swimming pools. They've literally slept underwater on the bottom of the pool, and about every 10 minutes they come up while they're asleep, roll their faces over the surface, take a breath, go back down, and settle at the bottom again. These kids live in water. That's their home. They're being given a name, almost like they're a different species. People are calling them Homo dolphinus. They seem to be a blend between humans and dolphins. Water is becoming their natural medium, and they're extremely intelligent. That's why we're like with when we're in the fetus in the sphere, we're in liquid and we're breathing, and we're like, how does that even make sense? You know what I'm saying? That's interesting. So maybe like the dolphins are like our connection with like being able to breathe underwater and having births underwater, because the women's muscles are more relaxed, like you're not all tense like on a bed or whatever, so your body is more like fluid, and there's electricity in the water also, and imagine if you're electrifying the water and doing salts and all these other things with it. Well, in the ocean there's already salt water, so the ocean is already electrified, so So I have a great deal of respect for underwater birthing, and the possibilities of having dolphins there at the time is truly a gift. I think it's a healthy trend the way many countries are allowing this new way to birth. Though in the United States, there's a lot of pressure against it. Lately in the US, the pressure seems to have subsided, and I think you can do this legally now in Florida and California, around the world in New Zealand, Australia, and other places. There are lots of centers, and of course, the more women see other women not in pain, and the more, uh, of course, the more women see other women not in pain, obviously they're going to want to do it too. Monkey see, monkey do, right? But I mean, if it's doing all this, and this is like years ago, so how are they still doing it? I heard, yeah, like they do it. Like I heard a couple stories too, like times people still do it, right? Still doing it now, but with dolphins, I'm not too sure. But we're gonna leave off there and geometries that surround the body. So that'll be our next little session, and thank you guys for tuning in. Here's the channel. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you want to see more, if you want to talk more, discuss more about topics like these, and remember, the future is in your mind.